Hi, my name is Mosarrap and I'm the co-editor of Cafe Dissensus. And I'm also a doctoral student in the Department of English at New York University. Marianne Chaco, my co-editor, has already pointed out the rationale behind this particular issue on social activism in South Asia. I'm not going to repeat any one of those, but I just thought I'll point out a few things about the connective tissues of these pieces that you're going to read in this particular edition. Uh, there are 4 points that I have at the moment with me. First of all, even though this entire issue is on activism, but there are certain kinds of activism or certain sorts of activists who are often rendered invisible in this whole process of talking about activists. Particularly if someone is working in the area of sexuality and LGBT rights, they are often rendered invisible by other activists and often by people. And we have quite a few pieces in this particular issue which talk about this particular sort of eliding or rendering invisible those activists. But if you're again working in other sorts of areas, like in the area of education, then it's much more easy to be accepted by people and much more easy to talk about that particular area of work. So this is one kind of problem that activists who work in the area of sexuality often face. Second, the language of activism or the mode of activism often in this globalized age often flattens out any kind of local differences. And we are particularly mindful in this issue about the local differences. And that's why we try to get as many pieces as possible from different sorts of locations, from different sorts of locales, and people working in different areas. For example, the activists working in the area of Pasmanda Muslim rights would not fit in the frame of those who are working about the rights of the LGBT, or for that matter, those who are working in the field of education. Sometimes the global movements like LGBT often draws in the local activists, and often the frames of references in the language almost echo each other. But there is a piece in this particular edition where you'll find how if we talk about sexuality in the vernacular, it's so often very different from talking about sexuality in English, for that matter. Third point of contention that we have is the role of the state. In some ways, most of the pieces do touch upon that point. Sometimes the state is a kind of in an opposition to the NGOs, but at other times they play a sort of a friendly mediator role of a mediator. And we have pieces where you'll find both these kinds of responses to the state. And finally, and that I think is one of my interests in this particular issue, is how do we bridge the gap between academia and activism, because often the academicians are accused of being isolated or inhabiting an ivory tower, but we feel that the academia would have to, the time has come for the academia to move out of its ivory tower and engage with everyday issues in the local context. And we have a piece by Anindya Purakasta who talks about academic activism and how academia could be more useful in terms of theorizing and engaging with issues like Adivasi dispossession and the underprivileged sections of society. And it is our hope that though both the editors of this magazine are academicians and many of the writers are academicians, or almost all the board members are academicians, still will be able to engage with the real world out there and will be able to convey our thoughts in a language which are comprehensible by the lay readers. That's one of the purposes behind this magazine, and I hope you enjoy reading it. Before I end, we'll have to thank a lot of people who made this particular issue possible. First of all, I would like to thank Arshad Alam, and Sipra Mukherjee, who are our board members, but who actually helped us in getting some of the pieces. They put us in touch with people whom they knew, and we got those pieces from them. Next, we would like to thank, and we are very grateful actually for this, thank Seher Jaffer, who is working in the Department of Education and the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. She's the one who got us in touch with Humaira, the educational activist from Pakistan, and we are delighted that we could get an interview from her. And also we'd like to thank Mr. Hamid Jaffer, who is Humaira's mentor and who put us in touch with Sharmeen Obed Chinoy, the Academy winner documentary filmmaker, who actually made the film for us. She interviewed Humaira for us, and we are extremely grateful to Mr. Hamid Jaffer. And we are grateful to Sharmeen Obed Chinoy as well. We never expected that she'll make a film for us, and we are extremely grateful to her. And next, we are grateful to a few people. Almost all of them are friends and volunteers who volunteer to interview people. First of all, I'd like to thank Abu Saleh, who got in touch with activists in Hyderabad and who interviewed Nurjahan Siddiqui. Next, we would like to thank Vinit Trekha, who is in Delhi, and he interviewed Shaleen Rakesh for us. And next, we would like to thank Motushi Mukherjee, who is going to interview Kavita Krishnan. In fact, that interview is not yet conducted, so we couldn't put it up here. That interview is going to be conducted soon, and we are thankful to Motushi for volunteering to do it. And finally, we'd like to thank Nadira Khan and Saptoshi Kundu for doing various backstage works, and in fact, they never get any credit for doing all the work that they do for us. So this time we thought we'll actually thank them profusely for all their help. And finally, I'd like to thank my co-editor, Marianne Chaco. In fact, she's the one who has put in most of the work for this particular issue, and she has done a tremendous work, and I'm grateful to her for putting in so much work. And we invite you readers to read this particular issue, and we are sorry that we couldn't have representation from everywhere. Like, we'd have loved to have representation from Northeast, from Kashmir, and from other parts of the country, but for certain reasons it didn't become possible. Even if we approach people, finally some of them couldn't write for us. But thank you so much for your patronization and for reading our magazine. And we have just started, but we are hoping that we meet the standards that you expect from us, and in the days to come we'll improve with every issue. And thank you very much for reading Cafe Dissensus.